Happy New Year and welcome to Extra Healthy-ish, the big sister podcast to Healthy-ish. Both podcasts are from Body & Soul and I'm your host, Felicity Harley. Jodi Duval joins me today. She is the founder and principal naturopath at a leading Perth naturopathic clinic called Revital Health. We're talking emotional stress, what it does to our body, and she shares some of her best remedies for dealing with it. Jodi, thank you for coming on Extra Healthy-ish. Now, I ask this question for everyone who comes on this podcast, but you know what? It's New Year, so let me give it a twist. How are you going to stay extra healthy-ish in 2022?
Yes, well, the 2022 year appeared to be, and I'm in Perth, so appeared to be looking really good until all these different things started to come into play for the COVID opening, which I'm calling.
I love it, COVID opening.
Yeah. So for me, really my foundations are huge, and keeping myself grounded in what I can do on a daily basis really helps me feel like I'm in control. And so keeping myself healthy on a daily basis means that I need to make sure I'm looking after my sleep, which means that I cope much better in the day and I'm less reactive, my brain's on, I can work better, I can focus better. I really make sure I'm getting enough water, especially in the heat of Australia. We definitely need a lot more water and minerals in our water, and taking time out for myself to things that I enjoy. And that really is a lot of people having that on their, to-do list or their resolutions for the new year, but making sure I get out into nature or do walks or actually listen to podcasts and have a dance in my kitchen and listen to really good music, just things that make us feel joyful. And we miss the joy, and having young kids, I get to see it firsthand in them. And it means that I can then model myself and make sure that I'm getting my daily joy. And that's hugely important. Like I love handstands and all those sorts of things. So yeah, to answer your question in a roundabout way, joy is probably the most focus for me at the moment.
You sound like a fun mum. Actually, joy is a really interesting one because a few people, I asked this question to everyone, as I said, and a few people have said my word of the year is joy. Last year I got so caught up in what was going on in the world that I missed the joy of life. So I think that's a lovely one to share.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel that too. Fun and joy.
Fun and joy. Now we're going from fun and joy to stress. the opposite end. We're going deeper into stress, and I suppose this extra layer of stress that we're all carrying at the moment, particularly in the eastern states of Australia, when we step outside our front door, wherever we go, we're doing this mental judgment of where are we at? Is there COVID here? Don't touch this. Should I touch that? Talk us through stress and the impact on our body. Can you firstly talk us through the different types of stress that we might experience?
Yeah, that's a good one. So the different types of stress that we experience is really dependent on what sort of attack it is on our body. So our body perceives it as, and I say this to a lot of people actually. So we've got a tiger running or at us or attacking us, and our body perceives that stress as the same stress as, oh my gosh, is COVID here? Am I going to have to cover up because someone's breathing on me? It's perceived in the same way. So the different stresses we have can be an onslaught, like in that way, our perceived mental attitude towards stress. And then we also have emotional stress from others that we're picking up on. So we have a field of stress, plus oxidative stress. So things that we're consuming and our body's own reactions to those substances. So there's sort of, I guess, three parts of stress that I see impacting us. And it's really hard at the moment because our body is perceiving stress consistently because of the environment that we're in. And that's one of the biggest players in our immune system, in our mental health, in our hormones, so many factors at play.
Are you seeing more clients coming in with more stress-related things? Are you seeing it, or is it just the usual for you? I mean, and keeping in mind you're in Perth, so it's a bit different, but to the rest of us over here. But what are you seeing with your clients?
Well, and I do have sort of eastern state clients and also global clients, so I get to see a really good picture of how it's determined again on what's happening in their lives, I really feel we've always had a perception of high stress in our life. We've always overscheduling with our industrial age and our 9 to 5 work and the way that our environment in our workplaces are not geared towards health. So I feel like there's always been a consistent amount of stress, but emotional stress has really become a big player on people's health. And manifestation of that in the body is huge. And I've seen that for many years in clinic. But there's a beautiful book called The Body Keeps the Score. And it's really, it shows how our body can manifest certain emotions in certain areas. And I really feel that that's going to start growing more and more in clinic and helping people through that.
That's really interesting. Can you talk to us a bit more about emotional stress and how it can affect certain parts of the body?
Yeah. So I see this more so in when I have clients who have certain cancers, and it's a little bit taboo in saying this, but there is some great resources surrounding this, and I just see it's more of a link that I notice. So, for example, someone who can't speak out or has been shut down a lot in their life or haven't been able to express their emotions effectively tend to get cancers or accumulations of sickness or illness in areas of the throat or the chest. So there would be a fear, so those sorts of things I see a lot, as well as ovarian and reproductive cancers in that way. But in terms of breakdown, there is stress that, obviously accumulates in those certain areas of the body. So we also get sore knees and breakdown of ligaments, and these can be very, what's the word for it? Typical of the emotion that they experienced. So a break or a broken heart, those sorts of things. So it's interesting just to notice that, but also make people aware of that, because healing some of those deeper emotional inputs can really help them get through that.
And I think you're right. I think research is actually growing in this area too, and looking into the direct link between, say, a certain illness affecting the throat and have you gone through this in your life. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens in that space. We'll be back after this short break with more from Jodi. What about, talk us through about diet when we're stressed. I mean, it's when we're stressed, obviously you lack sleep, become hungry, eat more. It's hard to manage a diet when you're stressed. What should we do here with our healthy eating?
Factors. Yeah, so many factors. So acute stress will cause you not to be hungry. So that's very acute stress. But most of us are not in an acute stress. We've reached past that. That's like, long gone. We're in chronic stress now. So what happens, obviously, is the breakdown of the body tissue and the irregulation of the blood glucose, plus couple that with poor stress or poor sleep, then that also is a glucose issue. So really what happens is our glucose system or our glucose drops, especially when we're really tired, we're always craving those really quick hits of energy, and therefore our blood glucose will drop much quicker, and then we're always in that constant cycle to bring it back up to that point. So again, when we're stressed, we're always searching for that next thing to fill us. It's not just that emotional emptiness, but it's also the body's responses to the high levels of hormones, stress hormones, and then they're dropping again. So that's really the basis of it. And then hormonal regulations as well. So you also have appetite control, irregularity. You also have thyroid and insulin responses. So insulin sensitivity reduces long-term stress. So all these aspects really play part in why we want more. Plus because of memory. So the memory issue with food, we associate certain good things with certain good foods. Chips with grandma back when I was 9 years old, as an example. So when we're in a stress state and we're craving for that emotional stability or joy, we'll go for those foods because we have ingrained that in our psyche.
Well, I just need those hot chips. What can we do here? What do you say to you probably have clients who go through this? How can we, is it willpower that we need, or what is it?
So firstly, there's a few things, and making people aware of it is first thing. So they're actually knowing where it's coming from, and that can make you feel empowered in itself. Then I always go through steps to tell people that your base nutrient level and your function of your body is really important. So I get some people coming in craving amazing things and can't control their appetite, and their blood sugar's all over the place. So certain eating windows or intermittent fasting can support, plus getting those nutrients so the body doesn't need to crave anything anymore. So the cofactors are there and the function is returned. And then the cravings seem to reduce or even eliminate majority of the time, which is incredible from what I've seen in clinic.
So getting your nutrition right. What about sleep? Often you can't go to sleep when you're stressed. It's a vicious cycle. You need more sleep. You wake up during the middle of the night. What's your advice here?
Yeah. So a great sleep researcher, and he's written a book too, Matthew Walker. So he talks about what to do in the acute scenario of not being able to fall asleep. So a lot of us will stay in bed and just go, oh, come on, let's go to sleep.
Yeah.
The best thing is because our bodies all work in a rhythm, so it's a circadian rhythm. So we need to get up actually. And so we are training our body that bed is just for bed and sleep, so we're laying down and we're going to sleep. So that's the first thing. We can start to get tired on the outside, but there's many things to do to lead up. Now, sleep importance is the first thing you do in your day is the most important thing that you'll do for your sleep. And getting up and seeing the sunlight resets that clock for the nighttime melatonin production. So it seems backward, but again, it's this prevention. So seeing that is looking at your, resetting your hormones, as well as your lead up to bedtime. So lighting, food, being away from bedtime, not too much water, and then winding down effectively, staying away from screens. There's amazing research by Sachin Panda, which talks about circadian rhythms and light. And that really is good to jump into if you're confused about what the blue light does to you at nighttime.
Yeah, actually, you just reminded me, I interviewed Dr. Michael Mosey last year, and he wrote a book all about sleep, and that was his one big tip. It was if you are in this really bad sleep cycle, if you're stressed, for whatever reason you're not being able to get to sleep, in the morning, just get up and walk outside. If that's the first thing you do before even saying hello to your partner or your kids, just get outside and get some sunlight in you. So, yes. I love that tip.
The super chiasmatic nucleus. There's a big word.
Oh, wow. That's impressive. Well done. I like that one.
Yeah.
What about you? Can you share some of your remedies for managing stress? I mean, you've got a really successful business. How do you cope?
So, yeah, good question. So me personally, I use daily nutrients. I compound a lot. So I do have my magic mixes that I make for clients with lots of different minerals that are personalized for them, including myself, and vitamins, as well as certain nutrients that I use that can be powdered, like forms of herbs, those sorts of things, yeah. And then we have amino acids and all sorts that we can add into that. Theanine is a fantastic one as an example. So I also love herbal medicine, and I do use it a lot. And there is so much research out there in association with nervous system adaptation and even sleep, plus many other things, but because we're focusing on that today. So I'll always have a little go-to tonic or medicine that I'll use, and it's incredible how it can really make you feel so much more steady. So my focus there would be making sure I'm also eating correctly and also drinking enough water and staying away from some of those baddie things, or swapping them out for the good ones that I can use so I don't feel like I'm missing out.
Yeah, and also the other thing you just made me think of, often when we're stressed, we just pick up our device, don't we? And that actually just adds to the extra noise in your head.
Yeah, so I also use meditation as well, as much as I can, or taking a quick 5 minutes out just to do some breathing. And it can be very easy. And exercise is huge for me, and I haven't mentioned that yet.
What do you do for exercise?
So the key also with exercise is balance. We can't overdo it, and we can't underdo it. So I'll try and do a run. I'll do some dancing or some weights or some Pilates. I'm trying to mix it up as much as possible. I love boxing, but I'll generally only do it every second day. And it will be the time of the day is very important, and also according to cycle time for me as well. So all these factors really set you up to be a little bit more optimal and coping better.
Actually, it's funny she's mentioned cycle, because I have been reading a bit more about how we're tapping more into how our cycles and making the most of where we're at in our menstrual cycle. Sorry, guys, who are listening to this, we'll just go.
But I need to know too.
Well, that is true, to support their partner or whoever is in their life. So that's a great tip. What about safeguarding ourselves from future stress? Can we do this?
Absolutely. And with all those things in place and supporting the nervous system with those specific nutrients that you can get, it's too much to go into for a short period of time that we're talking today. But we know biochemically that there's certain nutrients that are required for a healthy functioning nervous system. So if we can adapt much easier to those stresses, and our body can then adapt, and we can measure this through things like HRV, which is your heart rate variability, and you can measure these things so you know how you're coping in your daily life, then you know how to tweak. And it's not as simple as one thing, unfortunately. And I hate to say that, we're not in a magic pill type of society, but we need to be able to have daily habits. And again, it comes down to that, really having those things in place for you. And once they're there, that it's like they've always been there. So it's just a matter of placing them in and getting used to it.
Yeah. And often when you are going through a stress period, it's not until afterwards that you think, I was actually really stressed back then.
Yeah. And seeking out support and help is really important. A lot of clients that will come into the clinic will say, I wish I'd done this 10 years ago or a year ago or even 3 months ago. But so knowing that there's help and support out there that's slightly different, that might even optimize you to beyond where you thought that you could be, is really important to know that there is, help out there.
Yeah, but Jodi, really, it's just the importance of healthy habits. Thank you so much for coming on Extra Healthy-ish and sharing your wisdom.
Yeah, no problem at all.
Well, just like Jodi said, it really does come back to those, often boring, mundane, healthy habits, things like sleep, exercise, mindfulness, healthy eating. They really are the fundamentals of good health and well-being. So if we get those right, then hopefully we can live a lower stressed out life. Anyway, if you want more tips from us, make sure you log on to bodyandsoul.com.au. There are loads of stress related tips, or how to lower your stress tips, on the website now. You can join the conversation via Body and Soul on Instagram or Facebook. Thanks again for joining us. And if you have a moment, we'd be so grateful if you could rate, review and subscribe to this podcast. And until tomorrow, stay extra healthy-ish.